The second-generation BMW X3 debuted in 2010 and was manufactured in the United States. In mid-2014, the car underwent a facelift, which included changes to the front fascia and new engines. Production of the X3, designated F25, ended in 2017, when the third-generation G01 model debuted on an all-new chassis.
What kind of car is it?
Attractive looks, a respected brand, and a comfortable and well-appointed interior, these are the strengths of the BMW X3 that attract customers. The F25 dates back to the era when BMW cockpits were simple, uncluttered, and crafted from high-quality materials. The build quality is somewhat questionable, assembled in the USA, but it's still a good standard. Front and rear passengers will have plenty of space, and the 550-liter trunk offers plenty of room for belongings. If you choose the right configuration, you can have the front seats adjustable for length, which contributes to greater ride comfort. The suspension also makes the BMW X3 a player to drive. On the one hand, it offers excellent stability and confident handling, but the German manufacturer hasn't forgotten about the suspension comfort, which is very high. It's worth paying attention to the wheels. The larger the rims, the lower the comfort, and the largest ones from the factory were 20 inches. BMW X3 F25, 2010 to 2017. Technology. The second-generation BMW X3 didn't feature any major technological breakthroughs, but each of its mechanisms featured some new features. In addition to the engines, new transmissions were introduced, and the xDrive system was modernized, relying even more heavily on the stability control system. A few words about the drivetrain itself. In good traction conditions, the car is rear-wheel drive, but with any change in traction or even load, the multi-plate lockup clutch simulates the operation of a differential with a 40/60% torque split between the front and rear axles. However, in practice, most of the torque can be sent to either axle. The BMW X3 features a completely redesigned suspension compared to its predecessor. However, the concept remains the same. Front suspension struts with 2 lower wishbones and a 5-link arrangement at the rear. Many cars feature variable damping, linked to other mechanisms, allowing for customization of the vehicle's characteristics. For example, a setting that contributes to optimal handling also affects the drivetrain, coupling it so that under normal conditions it has a 20/80% torque split between the front and rear axles. The intervention threshold of the stability control system is moved further, allowing the driver to use the car's full potential while still maintaining control. It's also possible to deactivate the electronic assistance completely. The vast majority of BMW X3 F25s have a ZF automatic transmission. The BMW X3 can be had with one of several 4- or 6-cylinder engines under the hood, just like its predecessor, though they are not the same. The 4-cylinder petrol engines belong to the N20 family, feature Valvetronic and double Vanos systems, as well as direct injection and a twin-scroll turbocharger. From its 2-liter displacement, it produced either 184 or 245 horsepower. The less powerful version was installed between 2014 and 2016 in a car designated S-Drive 20i with rear-wheel drive, or as X-Drive 20i with 4-wheel drive from 2011 until the end of production. There were 2 inline-6 engines. The older N52 was only available until 2012, X-Drive 28i, with a displacement of 2,996 cc and 258 horsepower. It is a naturally aspirated design with indirect injection. Note that the newer 2.0 turbo engine shares the same model name, 28i. The newer inline-6, the N55, has a displacement of 2,979 cc and produces 306 horsepower. It is turbocharged and powered by direct injection. Technically, it is very similar to the 2-liter N20. When it comes to diesel engines, there are 2 generations of inline-4 engines. The entry-level 2-liter N47 with 143 horsepower is unique in that it was paired with a rear-wheel drive car, S-Drive 18D. A similar engine also produced 184 horsepower, and back then, the car had 4-wheel drive. In 2014, the 2-liter engines were replaced with the new B47 designs, producing 150 horsepower drive or 190 horsepower xDrive.
The six-cylinder range includes two engines from the N57 family with power outputs of 258 HP, one turbocharger, and 313 HP, two turbochargers, which were not modified throughout the production period because they met the Euro 6 standard from the beginning, although pre-facelift cars were assigned the Euro 5 standard. It is also worth knowing that if a BMW has the designation 28D, it is the American version, but it corresponds to the European 20D with 184 hydrogen phosphide.
Regardless of whether it was rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, two transmission types were available, a 6-speed manual and an 8-speed automatic, ZF8HP. The manual gearbox was paired with the 2.0-liter petrol engine with 4-wheel drive and all 2.0-liter diesel engines.
However, customers so rarely ordered this configuration that it is now considered a rarity on the market. Which engine to choose?
From a driving perspective, diesels are best suited to this car, even 2-liter ones. They have adequate power and are a pleasure to drive, especially with the automatic transmission. Fuel consumption hovers around 7 liters per 100 kilometers, although the S-Drive version can go significantly lower. The 3-liter diesels are, of course, the most enjoyable to drive, but this comes at the cost of higher average fuel consumption, at 8 to 9 liters per 100 kilometers. Gasoline engines are, without exception, quite fuel-hungry. The least expensive versions with S-Drive can get under 10 liters, but generally you should expect figures of 10 to 11 liters 100 kilometers for the inline-4 and over 12 liters 100 kilometers for the IN-Line 6. However, don't write off the gasoline engines, especially the 3-liter engine in the X-Drive 28i version, which can run on LPG. The newer version isn't necessarily so, but it rewards you with sensational dynamics. Now that you know that a diesel engine is the better choice for this car, a few words about their reliability. The infamous 2-liter engine, designated N47, proved to be a relatively successful design, aside from a less than durable timing drive. The affected batch of these engines has likely already been replaced, so there's no need to worry about them now. However, the timing chain should be regularly inspected and replaced if excessive noise occurs. This isn't a cheap operation. While the parts themselves can be purchased for a relatively decent 2,000 to 3,000 euros, the replacement process will cost at least that much. And if you want to do everything right, replace seals, drive belts, pulley with damper, oil, etc., you should expect to spend as much as 8,000 to 10,000 euros. Is it worth looking for a car with an engine that's had its timing belt replaced? If you trust the repair, then yes. But if you don't know what was actually done, extreme caution is advised. In our country, it's easy to find yourself having to redo something after a mechanic. As with the older M47, this engine is also plagued by swirl flaps in the intake system. Preventative replacement is recommended, although many garages suggest removing them. Generally, when it comes to servicing BMW engines, it's a good idea to find a reputable, independent service center specializing in BMW cars. 3-liter turbo petrol engine from the 35i variant. Turbocharger failure can occur in an engine, often due to wear in the mechanism responsible for controlling its geometry. Turbocharger problems can also be caused by leaks in the connections between the turbocharger and the intercooler. The successor, the 2-liter B47, is a slightly more refined engine. It features a modified intake with permanently integrated swirl flaps and a more refined valve train. Of course, it was built to meet higher emission standards, but this isn't necessarily a positive. It's more susceptible to carbon buildup and fuel and oil contamination. Emissions-related faults are more common. However, the engine itself, provided the DPF filter is not clogged, is considered as durable as the N47. The N57 engine, a 6-cylinder diesel engine, has received very positive reviews. While not as durable as its M57 predecessor, it's still very good. Unfortunately, the use of poor quality oil can often result in crankshaft bearing rotation and block cracks. We're talking about engines with mileage of 300,000 kilometers or more, which likely haven't been properly serviced. The more powerful the variant, the greater the risk of such damage. Many people still tune them, boosting their power with electronics, but without reducing the load, which results in similar situations. The bad news is that if you want to replace the engine with a used one, you have to plan on spending around 20,000 to 25,000 euros. Unfortunately, these engines are highly sought after and yet durable, so their prices are very high. The good news is that if the engine is repairable, you can restore it to perfect condition for around 20,000 euros. All the parts are available, you just need a workshop that can do the job properly. Unfortunately, this is just as risky as buying a used engine. The timing chain is more durable than in a smaller diesel, but replacing it is no less problematic. The entire drive costs around 2,000 euros and is mounted at the rear of the block.